Welcome to the Gym Secrets Podcast with myself, Cale Owen, Mike Ferreira, and Ed Turney. This podcast has one simple goal: make gym owners wildly successful. We have each owned or currently own profitable gyms. And over the past 5 years, we have helped over 5,000 gyms become massively profitable through the secrets we will share on this podcast. And if you listen in closely, we guarantee that you will be able to build a wildly profitable gym. Enjoy. And as always, if you find value in this, do us a massive favor and just share this with other gym owners that you know. All right, guys, let's talk about this today. We're talking about partnerships and why, in our opinion, they could be horrible and why you should not get into partnerships. We're going to dive right into it. We gave away the end result of what our beliefs are right now, but we're going to get into why, because the important thing is why. Because I think all of us, like, I've been in 2 partnerships in my business, 2 different ones. Ed, you've been in one and not. And then Mike, have you been in partnerships before? Never.
No, I've never brought a partner in. No.
See, this is great.
I think it was the horror stories of many close to me that maybe, you know what I mean? And I've definitely been approached. And almost signed a deal, but it never did. But
you think about it, like, man, it's funny because you get in and you partnerships, I feel like, are built around friendships a lot of times on smaller businesses.
So true.
And it's like the buddies that are like, oh, cool, bars are fun. Let's start a bar together. And then they get into the business and they're like, they don't know anything about the business. And they also end up hating the business and hating each other. And one person is carrying the load while the other person doesn't care enough. Mm-hmm. And then they get pissed and they don't worry about it. And then they end up breaking up just like anything else. So I think it's a really interesting topic because we talk to a lot of gym owners that have partners and they are in partnerships. Mm-hmm. And I would say outside of your spouse, you shouldn't have any partners, period.
Correct.
Yep. So Ed, you had an interesting, we were just talking offline before we started recording. Mm-hmm. Your take on it. I'd be curious. I think you should share it because I think it's a very good way of looking at why partnerships ultimately will not work out really well.
Yeah, so I'll tell a really short story about a really good friend of mine that made this mistake. And so I watched him do it. And then, so days before he's signing the lease on this first location, has a legitimate anxiety attack about it because he's really scared. Guy, first time owning the business. And so he just invites his friend, who's kind of in the same space, but not really, to come be his partner, 50-50 partner. And I remember asking him, I go, well, what were the skills that he was bringing to the table? He goes, well, he was really good with bookkeeping and stuff. And I was
oh, I know this.
Mike knows. So it's so for bookkeeping skills, you're going to give half of the equity of your business forever to. And I mean, listen, I've made just as big a mistake, so I don't knock him. But at the end of the day, he was just scared to do it because he had insecurities about doing all the things. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to learn new skills. That's part of what you're signing up for. And almost everything that a partner would bring to the table in a small business environment, not a big business, a small business, you can pay people that are experts at those specific things like finance and HR and all this, right? And then you can develop all the other skills because you're going to have to be well-rounded enough to be successful anyway. You're not going to do all the things forever, but you are going to have to be, dangerous enough. And the margins aren't big enough on a small business to share it. If you did $100,000 in profit in the gym, you're doing really well, but then you split it, you're not doing really, now you're making less than Starbucks. So you got to really think about what the potential is and not be emotional about the feeling of starting something you're scared.
That's like a common story though, right? He didn't know what he didn't know. And these deals are made before they have the skills to really understand what they're giving away, right? It's like with investment, you don't realize that, let's say, what is it, $1 over, what is it, 30 years of investment or whatever, on average, $88, something like that. So it's you don't really realize at the time of that deal how much money you're really giving away. You're really, like you said, just making up for the insecurities. And that's what we see over and over. I mean, shit, Cale, I think it was, didn't we have a gym that had 8 partners? I think it was 8 or 6. Was it 6?
Was it 8? I think it was 6.
But
it was 6 and we broke down the math on it. If you wanted to make X, this is impossible. It's literally impossible for you to make your goal amount of money.
Sure. Yeah.
Even if you're a killer and you're in $250,000 a year in profit with your gym, which is we see our top guys that can pull it home. I mean, we got our top guy 700,000, but he owns all of it. But it's even if you're killing it and doing $250,000 in profit in a small business, which is you're in the 1%. Now you're going to split that 3 ways, 4 ways. And it's usually, what's interesting is that usually the people that do really well like that, they have to do it because they got 3 or 4 partners. And it's like, just one of you, and you can just have employees do the other thing. You know what I mean? Because like at the end of the day, it's like when you have 6 children, you have to make more money than if you have 1 child. It's a very similar kind of dynamic. So you will work harder, I think, if you have partners because you have no choice to make more money, but it doesn't make sense.
I think the root of it comes down to the fear. I think people have those massive insecurities and the fear that of the things that they don't know, and they're fearful of their ability to go out and acquire those skills. So they think that they have this inability or this fear of this inability to go out and acquire a skill that they are unsure they even need yet or don't need. So they're like, cool, this person, they may know something that I don't know. And most of the time they don't. They don't know anything that the other person doesn't know. And they're like, cool, we can make this rock. Let's do this together. And then again, just like most relationships in business, what happens is one person is going to do 80 to 90% of the work, while the other person does 20 to 10% of the work. But each person, because they have ownership in it, they have this expectation, this entitlement to feel like they are due the same amount of money, depending on how it's split up. What's interesting is, I think there's a couple things. I think a lot of people, when they think of partnerships, they think of money partnerships, especially in the gym space. They're like, I need money to back me to get started. They don't need it, number one.
Right.
Like, there's 2 ways. One, you can go and acquire a business right now that's a gym for 0 money down, walk in, take it over. There are hundreds, if not thousands of gyms around the United States that will do this right now. I guarantee it, because those gym owners are burned out. They're not making as much money as you think they are. And they just want to walk away with no liability, no debt. Ed, you just did this. And you did a franchise, which is even harder than just doing a mom and pop gym. Well, the second thing is you don't even need outside money. You can just do a pre-launch. So sign a lease. You need roughly, I would say, anywhere between $3,000 to $7,000 to get started based on first, last, and if you can negotiate where you're at. You might need more due to this looming commercial real estate space, but save up 10 grand. You've got enough. You should have a job by now. Save up 10 grand. You can go start, throw money on ads for the next 90 days pre-sell, and you start day 1 profitable. If you need to get outside money for some crazy reason, which you shouldn't, don't bring them on as partnerships, bring it on as a loan. So think of it as like a hard money lender. Don't bring them on as like, hey, you own a percentage or equity. No, I would rather pay you a higher percentage on the loan, which will then make me have to work harder to pay you back, but I own everything in the business. So once that's paid off, we're done. Free and clear, nothing else tied to it.
I actually did that when I was, I bought another franchise territory years ago, also a bit decision, but I didn't take on a partner. But I needed 25 grand to do it. I didn't have it. I was so early on that I got a friend of mine. I'm actually remembering this because you just said it. And I think I gave him like, I don't know, 20% on it. Like, I gave him a crazy thing on it.
Love it.
But because I was like, I don't want to give equity. Like, I knew that part. Like, so I was like, whatever you want. I go, you have access to money. I don't. Just give me that. Buy the territory thing. We never developed it, which is why it was a bad investment. But I knew giving equity was the mistake, because I made that mistake in the past.
And one thing too, so I had to go through this. I had to buy out a partner, and like, really good friend, like exceptional friend. And it took a little bit to rebuild that relationship from the friendship side. We're not as close as we used to be for obvious reasons, but I had to buy him out, and it had to be at the proper valuation of what our company was at that time. If you're in a position and you have partners and you know they're not carrying their weight, you need to be willing to walk away from the business if you know it's what's best. Like, we had one of our clients do this. We told her, she came to an Inner Circle Live coaching session, small groups coaching session, walk through. She had partners that were not pulling their weight. She was doing 99% of the work. We told her, walk away, let them go, and then start your own thing.
Yeah.
And then that's it. If they're unwilling to make the changes, go to them, let them know we need to do all these things. And if they're unwilling, walk away. And if you're willing to walk away, you could start fresh and you can do exactly what I just mentioned before, those 2 different options, and you own all of it and you get all of the profit, because most gyms have 13% profit margins. The average gym in the United States. That's not a lot of money. That means you need to do $1 million top line to do $130,000 a year, just to put that in perspective. So if you want to make 6 figures, you got to be doing over $800,000, $850,000 a year top line. The average gym does $326,000 top line. So if you want to make money, then you really don't have, like you said, Ed, you said it perfectly, you don't have the margin to bring in other people. It's just not there.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just to finish that loop on that story, so that person exited her other 3 partners, was super scared to do it because of the close, relationships, because they were friends. I think one of the guys.
And let me add something real quick. Her parents had funded money for that gym. So there's 2 ties, friends and family.
Mm-hmm. And basically we showed her the math. We're like, you want to pay back your parents. That's the most important thing too. And she's like, yes. We're like, this path, you'll get there in 3 months. I go, this path, it'll never happen. Right? Because you just can't split the pie 4 ways. I think one of the partners was like a videographer. I'm like, what are we talking about? He doesn't have any skills to bring to the table. But again, they were
4 months, right? She got traction. She was crushing it. I mean, after the initial shock and really working through the emotions of obviously how is this going to change the relationship between longtime friends and things like that, she really had a profitable business in 90 to 120 days.
Let me just reframe it too. There's the do it for you thing, but if that's not who you are naturally, which I understand most people in the gym owner space are way more they want to help and impact, which is good. That should be the root. By taking herself out of the equation, it forced these other people to step their game up and actually turn their thing around too. I don't know how well they're doing, but reasonably they're doing better now because she's not doing the work for them. So you guys have kids, I don't, but you got to they got to push them out of the nest to fly sometimes, right? So you actually care about these people, help to force them to learn the skills and actually be successful, or they exit that thing and go find the thing that they're going to be successful at. It's the arrogance that only you can help them. It's come on, let them help themselves. You know what I mean?
And here's what's interesting about this. When you're put in a position where you are willing to walk away from the business and you confront your partner or partners, they quickly realize they're oh shoot, I don't want to take over this. Because most of the time, if they're not doing the work already, and especially if it's one other person, they do not want to do the work. So what are they going to do? They'll settle. And I'm not saying screw them. You should settle for a fair valuation of their percentage, but it needs to be fair. Most people think that the ownership of a gym that's making $30,000 top line and has 10% margins, that they should be paid 50 grand or 100 grand for their ownership stake of 50%. That's not reasonable. That's not anywhere near the valuation of that gym. And so if you are willing to do something fair and equitable, then present it. And then if not, walk away. And if you're willing to do that, you'll win across the board. But at the end of the day, just if you can, when you start, just don't get into a partnership, period.
You made me realize, actually, thinking back when I started my gym, I had, so a buddy of mine, right, was oh, we could go do this together. And I remember being kind of caught between, should I do this or should I get a loan? And I was 25, 26 years old. And it was actually my uncle who we got to talking about what I wanted to do and how I was thinking about doing this thing and how much money I saved. And I got I got this buddy and we got to talking. He's if you are serious about this, then, show me what your plan is and I'll loan you the money. And it was interesting because it was the biggest loan I had ever had at the time. It was pretty big to put that, obviously with family, that's a big deal. And so I remember being caught between whether I should go into business with my buddy or just do this on my own. And I took that step and I did the loan through my uncle. And it was amazing. I remember it was 4 years to pay him off. And it was that final payment. I felt I don't know, I was just so proud of myself. You know what I mean? It was right before I was sleeping, but I can't imagine what I avoided there. Right. With just getting into, because you look back, you're that guy had no skills. It was just a friend. Right. It was just a cool, buddies that love bars. Right. And, so
just imagine it would have taken another 4 years to pay him off minimum.
Yeah. Right.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Right. That's not counting the drag, because you'd be splitting all your profits in half. That's not counting the drag that this person, if they didn't have the skill set to help you, the drag that would have occurred, which potentially could have just ruined the business, period.
And I think what we see with, our clients is that the growth rate between the partners, just, even if you're at the same spot in terms of your business acumen, and even if you define your lanes, which nobody does, right, in the beginning, just over time, right, there just becomes a gap usually, right, in the partners of who's leveling up, who understands the business, and just they're what they want in life. It is very hard. It's very rare, I think, that we see partners over time, over years, stay aligned in their lane and moving at the same rate together, right? So it's just more and more likely that it's not going to work out over time.
Yeah. So to wrap this up real quick, so we'll keep this one a short one today. Couple options if you are thinking about getting a partnership. Don't. But here are some options on if you're starting a gym. One, go and just acquire an existing gym. You can walk in right now, reach out. You can do some literal cold outreach or walk in and find people. There's also tons of business listings. Don't take the price at face value on business listings on like biz, buy, sell. Don't do that. Reach out. Like Ed, perfect example. They listed it. You just reached out. Then you take it over $0 out. Because most gym owners would be willing to walk away with nothing. Or at worst, you could do owner financing and you just own everything and you take a piece of it and pay them off over time. The second one is just save up enough money to get a lease and a little bit of money to start some ads. 90-day pre-sales, you're good to go. If you do have partners, like the only time it's ever worked from what I've seen is they have to have wildly different skill sets. And even then, in my opinion, in the gym space, it doesn't work long-term because you're not going to make enough money for all three partners to be able to do it. If you're in a different opportunity and you have higher leverage, then yes, that might work. But you have to have wildly different skill sets that both help the business grow, not just bookkeeping, which is, you can use AI for that now. And bookkeepers are going to be out of a job soon. So it needs to be something way different. Like they're the best coach in the world, and they're the reason why you have 2% churn month over month while you are exceptional at sales and marketing. Like that may be the only reason.
Yes.
And you both have to have the same values and you have to have the same vision in order to make that work. And that is very, very rare. In fact, I would say that is the exception and the 1%. And most people are not the 1%.
Well said.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Appreciate y'all. As always, we do this for gym owners across the world to help you grow, to help you reach more people, change more lives, build wildly profitable businesses. If you like this, do us a favor, leave a review. But more importantly, if you find value in this, share it with another gym owner so you can help them. Especially if you have a friend who wants to have a partnership with someone or is talking about being in a partnership, send it to them so that they can listen to this and save their life financially and emotionally, physically, you name it. We've all been through it. Help save a friend right now.
Later.
Peace.